For like decades, when you thought of power on the high seas, one thing came to mind: the massive aircraft carrier. But today, the whole idea of naval strength is being flipped on its head. It's a huge shift, driven by new ambitions and some pretty revolutionary tech. So let's dive in and see how the game is being completely rewritten.
So, to really get a grip on where we're headed, we've got to rewind the clock a bit. Picture it, it's 1996. Tensions in the Taiwan Strait are absolutely boiling over. And this very moment, it would go down in the books as the textbook example of American sea power.
And yeah, this quote just nails it. The American response wasn't just a military move, it was a massive geopolitical statement. Its ripples were felt all across the world, and it basically set the tone for security in Asia for years and years to come.
But that was then. Back then, the supercarrier was king, no questions asked. But fast forward 3 decades, and the world's oceans are much more crowded, much more complicated place. So the big question is, what's changed?
All right, so let's really dig into what that watershed moment was all about. Back in an era when American naval power was, for all intents and purposes, completely unchallenged.
So here's the scene. It's early 1996, and Taiwan is gearing up for its very first direct presidential election. To put it mildly, China was not happy. They launched missile tests right near the island's main ports, a pretty blatant act of intimidation. The U.S. response? It was just as blatant. They sent not one but 2 supercarrier battle groups, the Independence and the Nimitz, steaming into the region. I mean, this was the ultimate show of force, the ultimate tool of power projection. And the best part? The message was understood around the globe without a single shot ever being fired.
Now you can bet that whole episode did not go unnoticed in Beijing. In fact, it shone a giant spotlight on a vulnerability that would kickstart one of the most incredible naval buildups in modern history. A new challenger was about to enter the ring.
Okay, so what's really driving all this? It boils down to something called the Malacca Dilemma. China's entire economy runs on imported oil, and an absolutely mind-boggling 80% of it passes through one single narrow shipping lane, the Strait of Malacca. It's like the main artery for their entire economy. If there's a conflict, a rival navy could just squeeze that choke point shut. That wouldn't just cripple China, it would send shockwaves through the whole world. And this vulnerability has become a core obsession for Chinese strategists.
So what's their answer to this massive headache? Well, a lot of observers have a name for it: the string of pearls. The theory goes that China is systematically building a network of commercial ports and naval outposts that stretch all across the Indian Ocean. Each one is like a pearl on a string, creating a chain of strategic footholds to protect its shipping and project its power thousands of miles from home.
And honestly, the sheer scale of this change is just wow. The Chinese Navy went from basically a coastal patrol force to a true blue water navy that can operate anywhere in the world. By ship count, it's now the largest on the planet. And we're seeing those pearls take shape, massive port projects in places like Gwadar in Pakistan. Then, in 2017, the theory became hard reality when China opened its very first overseas military base in Djibouti.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The region's other big player, India, isn't just sitting back and watching. They've come up with a competing vision. While China's string of pearls is all about securing routes with big investments, India has its Sagar Doctrine. It stands for security and growth for all in the region. See the difference? It's all about partnership, building up the capacity of its neighbors, and trying to be the preferred security partner in the area. And believe me, this isn't just a bunch of fancy-sounding doctrines. India's making moves. It launched its very first homegrown aircraft carrier, the INS Vikrant, which is a massive point of national pride. It's also doubling down on partnerships, breathing new life into the Quad with the US, Japan, and Australia to keep the seas open. And it's building its own network, not of ports, but of information, by sharing maritime intelligence with friendly nations all across the region.
So, you've got this classic great power rivalry heating up between the US, China, and India. It looks like an old-school naval arms race. But, while all that's happening, something else is going on under the surface. A disruptive new technology is quietly changing the rules of the game for everyone else.
Think about it. For the longest time, putting planes on a ship at sea, that was a game for an exclusive club of super-rich countries. You needed these gigantic, unbelievably expensive aircraft carriers. But now, unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, are changing everything. They're creating a brand new, much cheaper way to get in the game: the drone carrier.
And this technological shift, it's a huge deal. It's basically handing power to a whole new group of what you might call middleweight nations. All of a sudden, they're getting a taste of carrier power that would have been pure science fiction just a decade ago. And the ways they're doing it are pretty fascinating.
You want a perfect example? Look at Turkey. Their ship, the TCG Anadolu, was actually built to carry F-35 stealth jets. But then Turkey got kicked out of the F-35 program. So instead of just, giving up on the ship, they did something brilliant. They pivoted. The Anadolu is now the world's first ship designed from the ground up to be a drone carrier, operating dozens of those world-famous Bayraktar drones. It's an amazing bit of creative problem-solving.
And then there's Iran, which, well, their approach is something else entirely. It's almost bizarre. They literally took an old container ship, bolted a big, weird-looking flight deck onto the side, and called it a drone carrier. Now, the IRS Shahid Bagre might look a little clumsy, and who knows how effective it really is, but it proves a really important point. With drones, you can create a carrier-like threat for pennies on the dollar.
So this table really lays it all out, right? You've got Turkey's super clever conversion of an existing ship. You've got Iran's, let's call it a do-it-yourself approach. And then you have China, which is playing both sides. They're building super advanced stealthy combat drones for their big supercarriers, but they're also building brand new ships like this Type 076, designed specifically to launch drones with high-tech electromagnetic catapults.
And look, this isn't just a few countries. The idea is catching on like wildfire. South Korea is rethinking its carrier plans to focus more on drones. Indonesia is buying Turkish drones, probably with an eye on its own future carriers. Even established navies like Brazil and Portugal are getting UAVs onto their ships. The age of the drone carrier is here.
Okay, so what's the big picture here? What does all this mean for the future of war at sea? The crucial thing to understand is that this isn't just about new hardware. It's about a fundamental change in strategy. We are sailing into an asymmetric future. The term for this is an asymmetric threat. It's basically David versus Goliath, right? It's when a smaller, less advanced player can pose a real danger to a much bigger one. Think about a $100 million fighter jet being threatened by a $50,000 drone. Well, drone carriers are the ultimate naval asymmetric tool. They let smaller navies threaten multi-billion-dollar warships with cheap, disposable technology.
And this isn't some theoretical future war stuff. We are literally watching this happen right now in the Red Sea. You have these incredible multi-billion-dollar destroyers firing $2 million missiles to shoot down drones that might cost, what, $20,000? I mean, do the math. That is a losing game economically, even for the richest navies in the world.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head when it comes to the long-term consequences. That privileged monopoly of the aircraft carrier, it's dissolving. As more and more countries get their hands on this cheap form of power projection, it just encourages even more to jump in, creating a much more crowded and much more unpredictable situation on the high seas.
Which leaves us with this huge, unanswered question. For 100 years, the staggering cost of a powerful navy meant that only a handful of nations could really play the game. Now, the price of admission has dropped through the floor. Does this democratization of power make the world more stable, because more nations can defend themselves? Or have we just handed out matches in a global powder keg, leaving us sailing into far more dangerous waters?